October 24, 2014, Pembroke Pines, Florida. A week before Halloween, a witness was out walking her dog around the neighborhood. It was around 7:45 in the evening. As she came around a curve in the street, she noticed something unusual, which stopped her in her tracks. She stared at it, trying to figure out what she was seeing. There was a figure ahead of her about 10 feet away, standing in the swale area between the street and the sidewalk. For some reason, her dog did not react in any way to the figure, almost as if it couldn't see it. Whatever this thing was, it was horrible to look at. The witness described it as skeletal thin, standing around 5'3". It had white or light grayish skin, no hair, and there appeared to be something in its left ear. At some point, the entity seemed to become aware of her presence. It looked over its right shoulder directly at her, and then peered down at her dog. It then immediately started to run, moving into the middle of the street as it ran away from her. That is when the witness noticed that its knees were backwards. As it ran, it began to gradually fade, like the edges of it kept disappearing until she couldn't see it anymore. Was this some type of interdimensional zombie on a trip over from some invisible parallel world? They say that Halloween is the night when ghouls and ghosts are free to roam the world. Apparently this one arrived early. October 25th, 2015, Vishikantu, Hunaka, Peru. It was 8 a.m. in the morning when members of the Roja family were working at the sand dunes on the shores of the river Hulaga, when they saw a strange figure come out of some nearby woods. The shocked witnesses described it as a horse with the head of a human. It stood about 5'9". Some of the more braver witnesses attempted to approach the creature in order to capture it, but as they got closer to it, they were instantly overcome with fear and panic, and they quickly retreated back to the group. The closest anyone ever got to the creature was 65 feet. The creature then crossed the river and disappeared into the woods on the other side. There were rumors that 3 residents from a nearby village disappeared mysteriously. Some believe that this creature may have been responsible. Was this another early Halloween night arrival from a denizen of a shadow world, or had he crash-landed here from another world? On Sunday, October 27, 2013, at around 4 p.m. in the afternoon, residents in Vicuna, Chile, watched as a strange metallic object, flying at a considerable altitude, zigzagged for a few minutes before plummeting into a hill near Vicuna, in the sector known as La Campia. A worker at a Vicuna hostel, who requested anonymity, stated that the object made several turns in the sky until it began to lose altitude and fall on top of a hill. People began climbing the hill to see it, but it's rather far away. It's almost the size of a rail car. A photograph was taken of the object. Some believe that it shows a weather balloon, while others suggest that it's nothing but a solar panel. It is unclear what happened to the object, if somebody arrived to take it away, or if it left on its own accord. This is the second UFO crash I've mentioned that happened around Halloween. October 28, 2010, Newburgh, Oregon. 2 men walking in the woods near the Friendsview Manor at around 11 p.m. caught a glimpse of a weird 2-legged creature running through a patch of grass to the left of the walking path. They were startled as it was running into the dark of the woods. About 5 minutes later, 100 yards up the path, they saw this thing run by them again. This time they could see that it had 2 dark skinny legs, like the hind ones of a deer, forked forward at the knees. It was short, approximately waist level to the men, and was half leaping and half running further up the trail. It was dark, and definitely not a person or a deer. The thing made almost no noise, and the 2 men only saw it for a second. 2 days later, while playing disc golf at the Ewing Young course, on a wooded section of the course, 2 other men and one of the original witnesses observed a similar creature during the day. As they approached the number 10 hole from behind the basket, they saw the same thing. It had slick, greasy-looking black hair, like that of a dog, and the same forked legs at the knee. They could not see a face because a small tree obscured their view. After about 5 seconds of standing still, it hopped behind a tree and out of sight. When they went to look, the creature was gone. A local pet owner known for having owned wallabies was contacted, and he stated that the last time he had seen any of them in the area was 2 years ago. He also doubted that wallabies could survive in that climate during the winter. Is a wallaby roaming the woods of Newburgh, or was this yet another visitor from the beyond? October 28, 2010, just a few days before Halloween. 3 men camping in American Fork Canyon, north of Cascade Springs, Utah, would come face to face with high strangeness. A U.S. Army soldier named Ben and his friends, Timothy and Chris, were camping along a dirt track in the mountains overlooking Heber City. At about 11 p.m., an orb of white light appeared through the trees. The men estimated it was about 50 to 60 meters to the east of their campsite. The light split into two and began to move back and forth. It changed color to red, then to green, then back to white. It then vanished from sight. The men were discussing what the orb of light could be when it suddenly returned and repeated the same sequence. It continued to do this numerous times over the next few hours. Although a little unnerved, at no point did any of the men decide to walk off into the woods to check it out. After a while, the men started to hear crackling noises coming from the trees near the camp. This sound would come and go and was very distinct. Ben told himself over and over that it was the sound of the fire bouncing off the trees. But deep down, he knew this explanation was ridiculous. In the early hours of the morning, at around 3 a.m., the orb of light appeared and vanished one more time. Not long after it left, the men suddenly heard a deep growling sound and movement near their campsite. To them, it sounded like an enormous animal, and they decided that at that moment, it wasn't safe to stay there any longer. They quickly gathered up a few items and made for their car. They started driving back along the dirt path to the south. 3 miles down the road, Tim stepped out of the car to relieve himself. He moved off down the road a bit, while Ben and Chris remained in the car. As he was finishing doing his business, he looked down the road and observed 2 strange-looking figures running towards the car out of the darkness. They had something up around their shoulders, which almost looked like wings. They were moving very quickly in the direction of their car. Since it was dark, Tim could not see their features clearly. He instantly became frightened and rushed back inside the vehicle. He alerted his 2 friends and they sped away from the scene. Looking behind them, they could see that these 2 figures were giving chase and somehow were managing to keep up with their car. Ben became overcome with fear, and he got the sense that if these 2 figures were to catch them, something terrible was going to happen. Tim and Chris were equally scared. The chase lasted about 5 more minutes, until the car reached the main road at the end of the dirt track. As they turned onto the road, all 3 men observed something large fly over the top of the car. Ben was certain that one of the creatures had taken off and flown above them into the night. Apparently, once they reached the road, the entities, or whatever they were, decided to discontinue the chase. According to the witness, it was a long, terrifying ride home. Were the winged beings somehow connected to the strange lights? Were those strange lights UFOs, and did those UFOs deposit those winged creatures into the woods? Had the men heard those creatures coming through the woods towards their camp and left just before they arrived? By that token, when the beings came crashing out of the woods into the camp, did they find it empty, and was that when they started to give chase? One big question I have, what would have happened to Ben and his friends had they chosen not to leave when they did? Would they just be another entry in David Paulides' missing 411 books? Skeptics will no doubt suggest that, given how close the event was to Halloween, that these three men were chased out of the woods by costume-wearing hooligans. But that doesn't explain the strange lights or the fact that at least one of the creatures was observed flying over their car. As they say, Halloween is the night when the veil falls and the dead and all the types of ghouls and goblins, shadowy beings, are allowed to walk among us. Be safe, have a great Halloween, and I'll see you in the next video.